continue to get happily ever after, right? Happier and happier, and grow your love and grow your relationship and grow your marriage. James, do you want to add anything here?
Yes. So I'm looking at the chat. It looks like it's mostly singles and married, but I think, right, the main thing, and we're going to talk about this next, is the intention about why one wants to get married. And in this age, there's so much pressure around Muslims getting married, and the purpose of this event is not just for you to check married in your tax return. I know taxes are coming up, right? That's not the point, right? Anybody can get married. At the end of the day, especially for Muslims, I know this is going to sound potentially out there, but for Muslims, being single is mostly a choice, because anybody who really wants to get married could get married, but that's not good enough, right? That's not what this is about. This is about how to get into what we call a miraculous marriage, a marriage that elevates you, gets you to connect more deeply with yourself, with your spouse, and with Allah than you could do on your own. And that's the key of today. That starts with the intention, right? And so take this moment to make that sincere intention why you are on this call, right? To get closer to Allah through this gift, through this mercy of marriage. And if you are married, you can always, the main thing that we can always get more of is our closeness to Allah. We can always go deeper. We can always get closer to Allah. There is never enough until we return to Him. And so this is what this union is about. It's about getting closer to Allah. And so take a moment to put that intention forth, and that Allah records this event this evening together as an act of worship, remembering Him, seeking His pleasure, and seeking to getting close to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Do you want to actually lead a little intention setting, James? I know it's really powerful when you do.
Sure, yeah. So just sit comfortably, relax your body, relax your mind, close your eyes if you'd like, and take a deep breath in, and just slowly exhale with your mouth. And make the choice to be here now. I know there are bills, there are things, but dedicate this time to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a means to getting closer to Him. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Wadud, Ya Jabbar, Ya Afu, Ya Ghafoor, Ya Sami', Ya Basir, Ya Alim. الأحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد يا حي يا قيوم يا ملك الملك يا عزيز يا جبار يا الخالق البارئ المصور الرزاق العليم الخبير. Ya Allah, we ask you with your most beautiful names and attributes, those that you know, those that we know, and those that we don't know, that you bless every single person on this call, and that you make their path towards you easier and more pleasant, and that you bless and guide anyone that they come in contact with on their path towards you. And we ask you during these difficult times that you make us a source of peace during these times of turbulence, and to make us a source of guidance in these times of uncertainty, and to make us the source of mercy in this time of harshness, and to make us a source of love in this time of fear. In your most beautiful names and attributes we pray. Amen.
Thank you, James. Okay, so let's get started with the before you get married, the courtship phase, before courtship phase, I should say. As James was saying, in the before courtship phase, it's really important to check in with your intentions. And another way that you can think about this is, what is your vision? What is your vision for the relationship that you want to have? What is the vision that you have for your life, for the legacy you want to leave, for the for your career, for your family, right? So having this vision first is really, really important, because like James mentioned, many people, not many people. Everyone wants to have love. Everyone wants to get married. Everyone wants to be in a relationship, have a partner, start a family, all of those things. But if you don't go deeper into why, what is my intention? What is my purpose? What is my real vision for it? It can slow you down because you don't know what you're looking for, right? You're looking for a partner who is going to support you in the life that you want to build. But if you don't know what the life is that you want to build, it's hard to be like, oh, is this the one that's going to fit in? Are you the person? Like, you're asking these questions, you're not sure. And it's because you've lacked real clarity around your vision. So this is the first place that we wanted to start. And for me, before I met James, and when I was in that singledom phase, right, I was wanting to get married. I, was trying to be the good girl. I am the oldest daughter of African immigrants living in the white suburbs of America. So I always felt this pressure to be good, you're representing Black people, you're representing Muslim people, like everyone is watching you, everyone is, aware of what you're doing, not only in the outside community, but your siblings, you're a model for your siblings. So I felt tremendous pressure always to be good, to do the right thing. Allah is watching me. So I was trying to be that, quote unquote, good Muslim girl as much as I can. And I thought, okay, if I do all these things, I'm supposed to pray like this, I have to fast like this, be nice to my siblings, share here, help my parents, all of this stuff, right? Do well in school. Okay, I went on to college. All right, I went on to law school. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, doing all the right things, so helping people, accommodating people. I'm going to get good in return. It's just going to work out for me, right? It's just going to happen. Like, it seems like, well, you follow these steps, it'll lead you to the fairy tale. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing these steps. Like, where's my fairy tale, right? And I'm getting older and older. Where's my fairy tale? Like, when is someone going to notice how good I've been, notice how nice I've been, notice how helpful I am, how thoughtful, how intelligent, all of the things. When is someone going to notice and choose me, pick me, and so that I can get married? And when I was in that space, nothing happened. A lot of my friends got married while I was in undergraduate, and I watched that all happen. And I was like, okay, so no one in, my undergraduate school or community, or it's not happening at this time. What's next? I was unsure. So I went to law school, and in law school, similarly, not only was like, okay, I'm going to pursue this degree, this is going to be great, but also I'm going to be in a new community, a chance to meet different people. Maybe I'll meet my person there. So I'm in law school, still nothing, crickets, like, what's going on? Like, Allah, I'm doing all the things. Where, when is this going to happen? How is it going to happen? But really, it's because a big piece of that is that I didn't have any vision, right? And we're going to get to the whole story of like how we connected, because it's relevant for you guys to get a full picture of like, what is this process that we're talking you through? But when you're in that kind of place of like, I just need to get married, who's there for me? Who, my parents introduced me to this person here. My friends introduced me to this person here. There's someone from back home here. I'm checking on the apps here. And you're just looking around for a person, but without that driving force of what is it that I'm looking for, it can feel like you're waiting. And that's what it felt like for me. It just felt like I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And in that space, not much happens. So if that resonates with you, if you feel like you're in the space of like, yeah, I am kind of waiting, like, I feel like I've done all the things, and so they should just come. I feel like I'm waiting, put waiting in the chat, and I'll let James jump in here.
Thank you, Zahra. I think, the main thing, right, is that while we are waiting on Allah, and this is not just in marriage, right? In general, when we wake up in the morning, we're waiting, is this going to be a good day or not? Right? Is traffic going to be good? Is my job going to be okay? Is my boss not going to stress me out? Are my kids going to be well behaved today? Are they going to be in that kind of mood where they give me a hard time? We're always waiting on life and its condition to somehow magically align. And as you can see, even if that happens one day, 1 week, it is not an intentional life. And that's going to be very, very hard to maintain, right? And as you are waiting for Allah to bring you the great spouse, to bring you the great job, to bring you the great house, Allah is waiting on you for you to take the steps towards Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because yes, everything is possible with God, but are we with God? Everything is possible with Allah, but the first step for everything, for all the possibilities to be there, is that you have to be with Allah first. And that's the most important part of all of this, is that you have a lot more power towards creating the marriage than you think. What we tend to see and hear is, if you're in a marriage, people will say, oh, well, my husband doesn't believe in self-improvement. I can't do this. My husband doesn't like to hike and I like to hike. My wife doesn't like to cook and I like to cook. Like, always putting the success of their marriage on the other person, on the outside. And the same thing with single, right? There are no good Muslim men out there. The religious men are controlling. The secular men are too secular, right? Same thing with women. The apps are not great. They're creepy, et cetera, et cetera. We always put the onus on something that's outside of us. But the main thing that you can take from this session and from our book is that you have a lot more power to influence the type of life that you have than we come to realize from what we learn in the Muslim community. Oh, inshallah, maybe it's written, maybe it's not written for me. And that is not this. For you to get the full benefit of this workshop, you have to start realizing and start moving in the direction that, yes, I have more impact on my life than maybe I've been led to believe. So if you're feeling that type, impact in the chat.
Okay, seeing those chats come in and adding to what James is saying, right? When you really want to appreciate that I can have impact in the type of life that I want, that's what's going to empower you, give you motivation to really get serious about what is my vision, right? So here, this is your first assignment. Your first assignment is to craft a vision for your relationship and even for your life. But you can just start with, what do you want your relationship to look like? If you're single, right, you're imagining your future marriage. If you're married, you're imagining, how do I want our marriage to grow or evolve or change, right? And you're looking at what is the ideal that you want, right? Whatever that may be. I want us to, grow a company and live in a penthouse in in New York City, or I want us to live off the grid and grow our own food and homeschool our children, right? Whatever it is for you, like, let yourself really feel into what you would ideally want.
And here, it's really important to contrast that with what you're getting so far. If you've been trying to get married, if you are in a marriage, but you're not satisfied with your marriage, very likely, you're suffering from what we call intention deficit disorder. The reason why things are muddy is because your intention is muddy. Well, I just want to get married. Oh, I just want to kind of like have a nice marriage. Like, I don't, like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Kind of have a nice marriage is exactly what you have right now if you're married. Oh, I want to find somebody but you're not clear on who that somebody is, right? Let's use an analogy of sports, right? When you're a GM, if you're GM of the Lakers or the Clippers, since we're in California, right? Like, what type of team do I want to be, right? Okay, I have LeBron James. So who do I bring in on my team now? What kind of player do I bring in? What kind of team am I going to be? They don't just say, well, I hope some players will show up. And, that's what the Lakers did. And that's why they're horrible. They're just like, randomly picking players, and they don't do very well when they're not intentional. And it's the same thing with our lives. And so the reason why sometimes things are muddy on the outside is because within us, we are unclear and muddy. And so what this exercise does is brings that clarity to the forefront. And think about any goal that you've achieved in your life. I want to get good grades. I want to get a promotion. I want to get a job at this company. What did you do? You had to be crystal clear on that goal. You didn't say, well, I hope I get a good grade in this class. I hope I'll get a nice GPA, but you don't know what GPA it is. You have to work towards that GPA, whether it was a 4.0, 3.0, whatever. Same thing with a job. I want to get a promotion. No, like, okay, I really want to get a promotion. And here are the things that I'm going to do towards it and get it. And many of you probably got promotions, right? And it's the same thing with marriage, is that clarity, for some reason, there is a collective fear and a collective insecurity around marriage with Muslims, around the evil eye, around, oh, maybe it's not written. that we don't lead with in other things. If I told you, get an A in a class, most people on this call will have no qualms with it. And like, maybe it's not written, will not come into play until the grade was given. The grade came out and it was a B, and okay, maybe it wasn't written that I get an A, even though I worked hard. But when it comes to marriage and these other things, like we do something and then, oh, maybe it's not written very quickly. And I think that clarity really helps bring that to the forefront to help you persevere in the nonsense that we see outside. But the first step to persevering and overcoming all the distractions that we see in the modern society starts with being calm inside and crystal clear inside on what you want. And this exercise helps with that.
And before we go on our first break, I want to share what my vision was at the time, in case that helps. So my vision, so after meeting a couple of people and it was like, you're not a good fit, this is not going to work. Oh, whoa, this is very different. I was like, what do I want? And so my vision, I started with just kind of like the quality of the relationship and who's the, the couple that we all admire, the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija radiallahu anha. And the thing that I was really connected to about their relationship was how they stood by each other and how they were each other's like comfort. And so the dua that I made, or the vision that I began to have, was that, oh Allah, bless me with a relationship like the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija, where they are united together to face the trials of the outside world, and they're not being tested within their relationship. And I just kept repeating that. And that helped me when people would approach me or come to me. It's like, is this a person that like, I feel like we can be a team together, and then we can go out and tackle, all of the stuff that's going to come up from the outside world, job and family and in-laws and whatever, but that we're going to be a team together. And that was the start, the seed of my vision. So your vision doesn't have to be specifics of exactly where you're going to live or whatever, but it can be like the quality and the feel of your relationship. And I saw someone had raised their hand.
But in fact, it is more powerful to focus on the feeling, because that's what we're really seeking. You're not seeking a wealthy husband. You are not seeking a successful wife or whatever it is. What you're really seeking is the feeling that having that kind of partner, that kind of partner is about the feeling that it would create. So if you want a financially wealthy spouse, it's really, well, I'm trying to feel secure in my marriage. I'm trying to feel stable financially in my marriage, the stability and the trust and the tranquility. That's what you're seeking, right? Not necessarily somebody who's wealthy. So it doesn't become so much about those ephemeral characteristics, but about the end result, which is how you feel. Because there are many people who get rich spouses and they feel horrible at the end, right? So that's why it's better to focus on the feeling instead. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had some time during the break to write down the vision for your marriage. Okay, and let me share with you my story about how we got married, right? And that's the idea. Like, most people will say, but how did you meet your wife? How did you meet your wife? Tell me that. Just do you matchmake? That's what everybody gets frustrated when they read our book or whatever. Sometimes they're just like, can you give me the solution? And there is no solution. At the end of the day, getting married is a journey. In of itself, this journey towards marriage, this journey towards renewing your relationship, this journey towards having a great marriage is yours and yours only to take. Nobody is here to save you. Nobody's going to make the magic introduction to Prince Charming or Jasmine the princess. Nobody is going like, if you are putting it on somebody else to solve this problem for you, to outsource it to somebody, including Allah, you are going to be disappointed. The key here is to take the right amount of responsibility into creating this marriage. And this is where we stumble. Most of us are not sitting at home hoping for the best spouse, hoping for our marriage just to fall into our laps. Rather, we usually do actually too much work. It's just the wrong kind of work. right? We're we are on all the apps. We are on the matrimonial events at mass. We are doing all these things, right? I'm reading all the marriage books. I'm doing counseling, et cetera, and that's great. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already told us the answer to the question. Allah will not change our condition until we change what's within ourselves. That's the key, right? And I know this sounds like, oh, well, this is like woo-woo, but it's not. That's the right work. The work where we need to do the work is internal. Not some, just running around exhausted, believing in the means. Like we believe that everything is possible with Allah, and so then we have to be with Allah. How do we become with Allah? We do so by and so I was a graduate student. I was, white Muslim guy, no real guidance on how to get married. But I started feeling that I wanted to get married. I was in graduate school. I was in my 20s. And on paper, things were not going too well for me. I had no money. I made $20,000 a year. Barely could afford, my basic necessities. I, again, didn't have family. I didn't have like my mother, my sister to send to find me a wife. And I didn't really see inspiring marriages. I was actually quite depressed when I would go to the masjid. The way men spoke about their wives, I was like, why would I want to get married to these people? Like the way they belittled them, like, oh, women are half-brained, and all these idiotic statements, right? And they're common. If you go to any masjid, they're common. Maybe not this masjid, hopefully, but in general, sadly, they are common. And so as a young man, like I was like, this does not sound something appealing. And this resonates because I know a lot of people feel that today as well. There was a book that I saw the other day called Surviving Marriage. And that's a horrible title, right? Like surviving marriage, enduring marriage, as if this is like, a punishment when marriage is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So something is off. Where's the lie, right? If you are surviving marriage, something is off. You are not following, you're not in a true marriage, or you're not doing something right, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us time and time again that this is a mercy from him. And so I had nothing going for me. And I didn't know how to approach girls. I was like, I don't know what to do, how to talk to women, like, from an Islamic perspective. And I didn't want to date. I just wanted to get married, right? I was like, look, I'm old enough. I don't want to talk to an undergrad girl who's like just getting started. Like I want somebody who's on my level, who's going to be a true partner. That was my vision. My vision was also very focused on the feeling and the texture and the experiences, not so much on money and house and this and that. And at first, like nothing was happening, right? Nothing was happening. And then basically I started to feel frustrated. I was very frustrated. Some women that approached me that were interested in me, like they were too young or just not on my level of what I wanted. And I was like, well, dua is answered. Why is my dua not answered? I was making dua. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. So I was like, let me focus on myself. Let me focus. And this was just me on my own. Like I didn't ask a sheikh or anybody. I just focused on myself. And I started looking at what is it, that I really wanted in a spouse, and what am I afraid of if I were to attain that spouse. And I kept working on my spirituality for a few months, and it came to me somehow that I had to go and do Hajj. So I went and I took a second job in the summer, and I was living very far away, working overtime, trying to save up enough money to go to Hajj. And, with the purpose of sort of purifying and understanding and sort of resetting so I could find a spouse. So I could, because I wanted somebody who would level me up, but I was like, well, I'm not at that level. Let me get to that level instead of expecting somebody else to lift me to that level. I was like, let me take ownership of my performance, and hopefully somebody will join along who will meet me at that level, right? And I went to, I worked, summer ended, and I was short. I was like, man, I can't afford this Hajj. I was like $1,000 short. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, yeah, Allah, guide me. If this is meant for me, it's meant for me. I go to New York, where I'm from. I go to this guy's house, right? And I just tell him, like, in passing, I wasn't complaining to him. We were talking, he's like, how's it going? What? This old man, he passed away. May Allah have mercy on him. And he, how's it going? How was your summer? I was just telling him just innocently. And then I said, oh yeah, I am, I don't think I can go to Hajj this year because I couldn't make enough money and save enough money to go to Hajj. And then he said, how much do you need? I said, oh, I think like $1,700, $1,000. And he's like, okay. Then he turned around and he went like right there where we're saying, he didn't even get up. He picked up a brown paper bag that had exact amount, 700. I think I needed $700, $700 in singles. I don't know how he got that money in singles. There were $701 bills in a paper bag. And the only reason I know is because his grandson told me. When he gave me the bag, his grandson saw me and he was like, oh, why did my grandfather? I told him, I was like, oh, I was like, I don't know how much money. He was like, oh, it has $700. I just counted it. I was the one counting it for him. So I knew that was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling me, you need to go on this journey. You need to go on this journey of Hajj to keep growing as an individual. So of course I run to the bank. Back then it was Wachovia Bank, for those that remember it. I give it to the teller. The teller thinks I'm a drug dealer. It's like, what the heck is this guy giving me singles for? Right? I book my ticket. I go to Hajj. And then Hajj was a big trial. I won't share the story here, but I have a Hajj and Success webinar where I think I share more of it. But my passport was lost. I injured my leg, all this stuff, right? But then one day I go and I wanted to ask a question at the Haram in Mecca. Hajj was over, I believe. So I was just hanging out in the Haram, waiting for prayer. I went to this fatwa office and I sat down and I asked my question. And I was like, hey guys, can you give me some books to take back to America? Because I'm trying to open this Dawah center. And he was like, oh, you're in luck. Our sheikh is going to be here any moment. So just sit and wait for him. And this sheikh was the minister of Dawah of Saudi. That's their sheikh. So I'm waiting and waiting. Then I didn't know who he was. Then I come and I sit down and he grabs my hand and he sits me down on the floor. And, I speak Arabic. So we're talking in Arabic, how things in America, et cetera, et cetera. And then he says, what can I do for you? He wrote a letter for me right there on the thing. He's like, go to Al-Qura University. They'll give you any books you need, free. I was like, all right. And he's like, what else do you need from me? Tell me anything and I'll help you. And in that moment, I don't know how I had the presence of mind because I had just met Zahra. Literally, I met Zahra like 2 weeks before. And I spoke with her a couple of times and I left for Hajj. And I said, oh, Sheikh, can you make dua for me? Can you make dua that I become, to the level that I could get a righteous wife, right? Can I take care of my skill level to elevate myself to have a righteous wife? And he made dua for me there and I left. And of course, from that moment to me getting married was less than 6 months. Once I took ownership of my life, it was less than 6 months. I had no money, couldn't afford a wedding, couldn't afford a wedding band, a ring. I couldn't afford a mahar. I couldn't do, nothing was working in my favor on paper. But here we are 15 years later. I was making $20,000, as I mentioned before. Shortly after getting married to Zahra, I made 10x of that. Right? No MBA, no certification, nothing. Having the right spouse is the greatest career. If you're career oriented, the greatest career investment is to marry the right spouse. And you are there. You are one internal shift away from finding your dream spouse that will unlock everything for you. But you got to take that step. That step requires deep faith. It is not going to look good on paper. I did not look good on paper. It is not going to look good. Your situation is going to seem like you are unmarriable. Your marriage may seem like it's on the verge of collapse. But if you take that one act of faith to focus inward on what can I do? Yes, everything is bad. The economy is bad. This is bad. People are getting laid off. All of these things are bad. Fine, great. What can I do? You don't need anything else besides taking that personal responsibility and that personal mastery to find or create the love that you desire. You have to be clear, as we did in the first exercise. Now you need to be committed. You can't be interested in a marriage. When I was interested in getting married, I only did the things that were convenient, that were easy. I gave up if I didn't see immediate results. You have to become committed to getting married. You're going to do the work regardless of what it seems like on the outside. You are going to keep going even if you don't feel like it. And you are doing it in the long term because you are committed to getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not a short, get rich quick scheme.
Thank you, James. I always love when you share the story. And I feel like I heard more details that you didn't tell me before. So that was good. And how James is bringing us into this second piece, right? Being committed is really about your faith. And here, right, we're taking faith from its like, oh, I believe Allah can do anything I believe. We're taking faith from its kind of theoretical notions and putting it deep into our hearts and making it spur and motivate how we think and how we act, right? That's the type of faith that you need. So the faith of knowing that, I'm going to do and I'm going to become the type of person that is in the vision of the relationship that I had, right? So whatever your vision for your marriage, if your vision for your marriage is like very, we're just so calm and peaceful with each other. Well, are you calm and peaceful? Or do you get irritated and angry and are snappy? Because if you're not, then that's what you need to work on, becoming more calm and peaceful, right? So you becoming that version of yourself. And that requires you to have faith that you can attain that you can get there. And it requires your faith in the process, your faith in that if I keep going, if I keep doing my little steps, right? If I take one step towards Allah, Allah will come running towards me. That you understand and know that Allah is on your side. So much of our work. So, James and I are coaches in the sense that how we support people is to develop their faith, develop their capacity to stay committed. Because especially in this modern, fast-paced day and age, it is very easy to feel like, well, it's not happening, nothing's working, it's not written for me. It's easy to give up. It seems like it's you're being safe, you're being pragmatic. Let me just move on, do something else. Whereas what is going to lead to the results that you want is that internal commitment based in faith that allows you to keep moving. So we had a question before. I don't know if that person wants to ask their question, type their question.
And while you type the question, the next step in your workbook now that you're doing is to make that commitment. What are you committing to doing? Who are you committing to becoming, right? And if any of you attended my goal setting workshop that I did a few months ago, right? Why does goal setting not work? Goal setting does not work. We're already in almost March, right? How many people have accomplished their annual goals that they did on December 31st? Very few. How many people are still working towards those goals? Very few. Why? Because goal setting is about the goal. Goal setting doesn't work because it is about the goal. But what really works is to be about the transformation. It's not about what am I going to get, it's who am I going to become? Who am I going to become to be in the marriage that is uplifting, that is secure, that is safe, that is full of love, that is full of fun? That's the question. Not, can I get this kind of husband or this kind of wife or this kind of marriage or this kind of children?
Okay, the other piece of faith that you need to have in this is to have faith in yourself. Faith that who you are and how you are is good enough, is lovable, is worthy and deserving of love. Because as we move now through the courtship process, you have to show up and you have to invite people in to see and know who you are, right? In this day and age, everyone is trying to present their best version, right? You go on LinkedIn, you go on Instagram. It's like, these are my accomplishments. This is my picture perfect vacation. And so it feels very scary to let people know the truth about you, to let people know expose your flaws and your faults. But that is the only way that you're going to be able to make a strong connection and understand if you can trust that the person that you're interacting with is really a match for you. Because if you're basing that, oh, they like me, but I haven't told them everything about me, then of course you're going to feel insecure because you don't know if that is a true interest, a true connection, because it's not based on the truth of who you are. So this faith that you have in who you are and how you are is really important. So like that commitment that you're making to yourself is that you can show up and say, hey, this is me now. This is how I am now. And this is where I'm trying to go. And let me tell you all of the things about that So we can see if that this is a match. But you cannot only say, this is how I plan to be, but I'm not that way now. And I'm not going to tell you all of the things about how I am now. So you can't only project into the future, and you can't only say, well, this is what I do and I'm never going to change. So take it as you like it, or take it and leave it, because then you're not going to be in the type of relationship that's going to last, because you need growth. We're all designed to grow. The whole world, everything in this world is designed to grow. The grass grows, that, everything in nature is constantly growing. So you cannot also have the attitude, well, this is just the way that I am. I don't like this. And if someone expects me to do that, or someone expects me to be like that, like, that's not me. This is just the way that I am. Okay, cool. That's the way you are now. But is that the way you plan to always be? How you always want to stay? What you always want to do? Like, where do you want to improve and grow? So those things are really important in this part of it.
And so I just wanted to reiterate what Zahra is saying, right? What we tend to do is put up a show for the other person. We want to impress them. It's like a job interview in that sense, like, oh, I'm trying to look good for this person, right? But if they like you and you're only showing half of you, do they really like you? They don't. They like this caricature that you're building, this persona that you're projecting. And that does not serve you nor the relationship. And this happens even in marriage. If you are married, some people are married to each other and they don't know each other, right? So if you are married, you could restate your intention, restate who you are. And see, this is the key. The key to living happily ever after in Jannah, all the way to Jannah, we're not even talking about this life, is to go through the courtship process successfully over and over and over and over and over again. Even when you are married, you need to court each other. What do we mean by courting each other? It means to state your preferences openly, respectfully, clearly, without any fear, with full faith, right? And hearing the other person's preferences and agree if, okay, we can make this work, right? And you keep doing that the first year of marriage, the second year of marriage, the third year of marriage. Of course, for those that are single, you just have to do it with every single candidate, right? And you eliminate those that are not good right away. Most people are traumatized because they go on talking to people for months and months and months and months and months, then they get ghosted, and then it doesn't work out, etc. Yeah, because you wasted all your time on clearly a poor candidate. So just say no to them, so you're not attached, so you're not this, so you're not getting all jaded. Then you just know nothing personal. You're not for me, I'm going to move on. And one thing that with the intentions that I want you to think about is this. Look at your life in all areas of your life: finances, health, relationships, family, children, deen, etc. Right? Look at all the dimensions of your life. And guess what? Most likely, if you haven't done a lot of this spiritual work, what you are experiencing is what you tolerate. Your minimum requirements is what we tolerate. And we tend to, especially in this thrive age where I have to thrive, right, to get something. And sorry, in the survival age, we're not thriving, we're just barely getting by, right? We tend to just tolerate our minimum. And we're all there. Let me just get married to a reasonable guy that doesn't steal my money and doesn't do this. Let me get married to this person that, kind of respects my parents, and that's good enough. Maybe they're just Muslim. As long as they say La ilaha illallah, that's good enough, right? We tolerate our lowest minimum. That's what most of us do. So what you can do when you have an intentional life is that you realize, well, if I raise my tolerance, I'm not going to tolerate just any random guy. I'm not going to tolerate any random job. I'm not going to tolerate being overweight. I am not going to tolerate my children being disrespectful in the house. That's what believing in yourself means. Or things like, oh, well, this is how life is. Allah wrote it this way. This is how. No, you can set your threshold. And that was me. After I got married to Zahra, we moved to New York City a few years later. This was what I tolerated. My daily routine was something like this. I'll come home exhausted from work, stressed out, always on my phone checking what's the next drama that happened in my company. I'll come home, I'll eat like a cake or some sweet or pint of ice cream or whatever it is. And then I'll pop 2 or 3 Tums because I had all this heartburn. and I'll go to sleep. I won't sleep very well because I'm still digesting all that food. My knees were hurting. My back was hurting, always tired, because that's what I tolerate. It's like, well, that's the price to pay to be CTO. I used to be chief technology officer at this $30 million company, right? That's what I tolerated. And I kept tolerating that level of unhealthiness for many, many, many years until I said, no, I'm going to raise my tolerance. I am not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to tolerate this nonsense anymore. Daily heartburn and knees, and I have children, I have to play with them and run with them. I can't do that anymore. And once I stopped tolerating that kind of life, my life transformed. I lost 50 pounds and things started moving in the right directions, right? I had to go and do the work to lose 50 pounds over 2 years, but I did it. But it wasn't until I stopped tolerating. We tend to always just tolerate the minimum. It's like, alhamdulillah, it could be worse. Alhamdulillah. That is true, but there's another way to not tolerate something in a state of gratitude. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the capacity, right? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have said, I tolerate just that the Meccans don't hit us. As long as they don't hit us, even if they make fun of us, even if they boycott us, I'm going to stay in Mecca. Is that what he did? He said, no, I'm going to go and have my own community, my own nation, if you will, right? And even when people approached him with deals, right? The people of Yathrib were not the first people that sought to sign a treaty with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Things were really bad. In 1 year Hajj, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam meets one delegation from another town that offers them for him to join them. But they say, you're going to be the religious leader and so-and-so is going to be the quote-unquote military political leader. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a vision. He knew what he wanted. He had trust in himself and in Allah. And he said no. And you know what that meant? 1 more year of persecution. There was nobody else coming. Hajj is 1 year to a year. That was the delegation that made him an offer. He had to say no, and he had to suffer through 1 more year of very harsh discrimination. They almost killed him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Until the following year, when he meets the people of Yathrib, and then he tells them, I'm going to come the following year. Right? So that's 3 years of persecution just to fulfill the vision. In his case, that's the vision, but in your case, it can be your marriage. So raise your minimum tolerance. Raise it. I am not going to tolerate making $40,000 a year. I am not going to tolerate all these guys ghosting me. I am not going to tolerate, the spouse that is completely disengaged in my life. And it doesn't mean that you're not grateful or you're disregarding that life. It just means I am open to a higher standard. And Allah, show me the way. How do I maintain and establish that higher standard?
This is really, really powerful stuff, guys. If you're feeling what James is saying, put raise in the chat, because essentially what he is calling for you to do is when you're making this commitment that you are basically opening yourself up to better, to more, to greater with Allah, right? You're saying, oh Allah, maybe I've been trying to make myself small, or just, oh please Allah, just give me this only. And now you're turning to Allah and being like, no, I want more. I want greater. I want amazing love. I want an incredible life. I want to give and serve and help and do and build and create in all of these ways. And I'm going to raise my standards. If any of you are familiar with Muhammad al-Sharif, rahimahullah, he used to say, right? Don't lower your standards. Raise your dua. Don't lower your standards. Raise your dua. And this is what's going to begin to shift your awareness to where you need to go. Because what this means, when you raise your dua and open your standards, want to have a higher tolerance level, it means that you are going to begin to pay attention and you are going to begin to appreciate more the guidance that Allah is already giving to you. Allah is already lining up and providing guidance for you for all of the things that you want. But when you're just looking lowly at the low level, you cannot see this because it seems like, well, it's unlikely. Yeah, I saw that job posting, but I'll never get it. So you just dismiss it. When Allah is like, no, that was for you. That was for you to apply. You can get it. Right? Oh, that they told me about that guy or that girl, but I don't know. They live over there. They're not going to want me. So you are missing the blessings, the opportunities that are right available for you if you are stuck in the place where, let me just let me just shrink my vision down. Let me pretend that I only want this because I'm so scared of what I really want. I'm so scared I won't get it. So I'm not going to ask for it. I'm not going to believe in it. I'm not going to commit to it. I'm not going to have faith in it. I'm just going to have faith in the smaller level thing. And when you stay at a shrunken, smaller level thing, not only will you miss your true thing that you want, but the smaller level thing might not even come. Because when you receive those things, like, I don't really want this. Like, this isn't the type of marriage I want, or this isn't the type of job I want. So you will not even take that. So this is really key, guys.
I want to echo what you just said about when you make a small dua, right? That's when you start enduring marriage, right? And many of you are successful, have achieved things. People are like, I'm going to go through all of this hardship for this little morsel. Like, it does not make sense. So you start self-sabotaging. You start dragging your feet. You stop doing what you need to do to get married because your vision for marriage is not worth it. So that's why you have to elevate the vision of marriage, right? So that it matches the level of effort that you need to do to get it, right? Like you would say, I want a McDonald's, a lower tier food, but it's very convenient to get a McDonald's. You go to the drive-thru, you give them 99 cents, they give you that thing that they call a burger. I don't know if it's really a burger, but it's a thing, right? That's all you need to do. Low effort, low value. That's wonderful, right? But what you're telling in your mind is, I'm going to have a low value marriage, right? But a high effort. It does not make sense. You already have put the effort. If you are on this call on a weekend where you could be doing something else, clearly you've put in the effort and you came here, right? So high effort, low value is not something your mind is going to cooperate with. It's not going to cooperate with you to get to your goal. You want to get your mind and your whole and your heart and your soul to be aligned to working with you instead of against you. And so what we need to do is raise the value. We need to drop that McDonald's, Big Mac, and move it up to something more organic, something farm to table, something tastier, something harder to get. You got to go all the way to Beverly Hills to get it. And you have to wait for a month to get a reservation, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to be worth it because it's highly nutritious. It's very valuable. It's worth me doing that. And that's very common in jobs, right? In jobs, if the job is paying $30,000, you're not going to waste your time even applying, right? But if the job is paying $300,000, you're willing to go through the hoops to do it. It's the same thing right now. If your value, the view and your anticipated value of marriage is low, in this time and age of instant gratification, you're just not going to put yourself through the work that needs to happen for you to attain any kind of marriage.
And I wanted to show you guys, I had printed out copies of our book before I do. It's not available in print. It's a PDF, but I had printed it out to bring to you guys in Santa Barbara. And I just want to go over very briefly how this supports you to do everything James and I have just said, right? So the book is called Before I Do. And in the beginning, what we're doing is we are guiding you through setting your vision, making that commitment to yourself on, we share more of our story, the commitment to yourself. It works through the four stages of listening, which is extremely powerful and that we don't really have time to get in with you here. But we talk about the miracle of love and what that looks like and how you can experience a miraculous marriage. And then we get into a whole section on questions, which is really not the point. The point is that we are guiding you on how to have these conversations that are going to lead to an elevated level of a relationship, that you are raising your tolerance. Like, I don't want to know just, what's going on with your career. I want to understand, what are your ambitions? I don't want to know just about, what's your lifestyle or standard of living. I want to see what is your vision for how future society could look like and community could look like, right? Like, you're getting to a deeper level. So our book, I'll drop the link on so that you can download our book. And like I said, that is the original way that it is made. I just had only printed it out just to bring to you guys in Santa Barbara so you could see it. But you can, of course, go out and print it yourself. Very easy.
Yes, and I think the main thing, right, is around the miraculous marriage. Again, if you're not seeking a miraculous marriage, then everything else is going to seem more attractive to do the work on. Everything's going to be higher priority. And that's why A big part of that book is just aligning what a miraculous marriage is, what does it mean to you, why do you want to get married, getting into the intention process, to be intentional, to make this as a means to get closer to Allah. Again, not about finding a spouse. Men and women come and go. Allah is here forever. And so every opportunity in life is an opportunity to get closer to Allah. Me getting a gallon of milk from the store is an opportunity to get closer to Allah. Me going out in this rain and helping somebody is an opportunity to get closer to Allah. Me showing up on the Zoom call is an opportunity to get closer or away from Allah. That's the choice. The choice is, do I draw nearer or farther away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
And so just so you guys have what we've outlined here, right, is the framework, the frame of reference, the point of view that you want to be in order to align with a great marriage, in order to align with your true vision. Because you will only be happy when you're at that true vision. When people talk about find happiness, pursue your purpose, blah, 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 all of that, it means honoring yourself. You know what? This is what I really want. My vision for a relationship is that we feel like this and we engage in each other like this and we support our families in this way. That is the truth of what you want. And you will only, your soul, your spirit that Allah created, your spirit is calling you to that. Says, yes, this is our vision. And you will only feel happy, peace, contentment, tranquility, all of the amazing qualities that Allah describes in the Quran when you honor that true vision and then you commit to it and pursue it. If you try and settle for a shrunken version of it, you will never be happy. You will never be satisfied because it's not really what you want. It's not what you want. It may be what your parents said is good, what your friends think is okay, what society thinks looks good on paper. But if it's not what you want, what your soul is calling you to, what your spirit that Allah has placed within you wants, you will not be happy. So you can, many people that you may know people, or maybe you, that on the surface, on paper, it looks like this is great. This looks great. And then you talk to them and you're like, they're miserable. Like, why are you miserable? And you find out because all this great stuff that they have, that society told them to have, it's not really what they want and they don't like it, right? So our book is one piece of our work. We have webinars, we have coaching programs, we have all of these different things because there's several steps that you need to go through, right? You need to understand what is the truth of what I want? What is the truth of my true vision? And many people don't know that because you just have all of your parents' expectations, society's expectations on you, and it's hard to figure out what is actually what I want. So you have to figure out what it is that you really want. Then you have to let go of whatever has been in your way to get there. And that can be really hard. Like, it's hard to drop relationships or leave jobs or move cities or whatever it is. But those things might be required in order for you to begin pursuing the true vision for your life, your true purpose. So you need to know what you want. You need to let go of what's not serving you. And then you need to begin building and developing yourself to become the person that is aligned with what you want. And that's really where the rubber hits the road, because that is when people talk about purification of the heart, the jihad al-nafs, that's that work. And that's the hardest work to do. And so our programs support you to be able to engage and do that work. So as you can see, this is bigger than even just about marriage. This is really about you living and feeling good about yourself and in love with your own self, and then connecting with another person who's going to love you or who already loves you, and that you are loving them back. And it's just a constant elevation and purification within yourself and within your partner. So if you're interested in that, we can offer you guys a free call to discuss more about what program might be a good fit for you and all of those different things. And if you just are trying to get started, our book, again, is a great place to just get started and have that and sit with it and do the activities that we outline.
One thing I want to say before we go to break, everyone, is somebody might say, oh, that's great, Zahra. I want to get I want to have this amazing marriage, but I can't even get anybody to bite. Like, I'm willing to take anyone of the opposite gender right now and nothing sticks. I can't meet anybody. I can't see anybody. Anybody I message on the apps ghosts me, right? All the men that I meet are insecure. All the women that I meet are not interested, et cetera, right? And here, this is why. It's because that is not what you want. And Allah's not going to give you something you do not want. That is not you lowering your standard. You think that you're making it easier, but you're making it harder on yourself to get what you want. To get into that relationship, you have to be clear on what that is. And what Zara is saying, honoring that desire. That's where the faith in yourself and Allah comes into play. Right now, you're likely lowering your bar. Like, that's okay. As long as they have any job, I'll take them. That's okay. As long as my husband picks up his socks, I'll tolerate him, etc. But that for them to rise to level of expectation, you have to demand it first. Of yourself, in your heart, and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do anything for you. But if you don't ask him in no uncertain terms, it's not going to happen. Assalamualaikum, everybody. While we wait for everybody to join and we start doing Q&A, I thought I'll briefly give you another exercise that you can do, and hopefully you'll get the recording and you can do it on your own. And that is, it's a visualization exercise. It's basically everything that we said we wanted to do, that we asked you to do, but in an easier format. For some of us, writing doesn't come easily, and we're not as expressive as writers, right? And so here, all I want you to do is just close your eyes and just sit comfortably and relax. And all you want to do is imagine the life that you want to have with your spouse, whether you're married or single. Like, what are you doing? What are you saying? What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? Where are you right now? Are you in front of the fireplace? Are you hiking? Are you at the beach? Or are you in the mountains? Right? What are you doing? What are experiences? What are you saying to each other? How are you feeling? And just take a minute and imagine that. And if it's hard to picture, that's okay. Just try. Let's try, especially tap into the feelings. What are you feeling as you're imagining this relationship? What are you saying to each other? What gifts are you giving to each other? Are you working? Are you not working? What does a day in your life look, sound, and feel like? And now what I want you to do is remove that person. Remove the hypothetical spouse or the actual spouse from the picture. Erase them from the picture. And now you remember the feeling that you wanted to create, right? You were looking for joy, you're looking for fun, you're looking for tranquility, you're looking for love, whatever it is. Can you give that to yourself? Can you give that to yourself? Are you willing to give that to yourself, first and foremost? Loving and honoring yourself doesn't make you selfish. Can you have compassion towards yourself like you picture this other person having compassion towards you? Because that's the key to finding love, is you have to come from a place where I am all right. And if somebody comes along, I'm going to be better, but I am great already. We have to move away from the Hollywood notion, you complete me. Like you're incomplete and you're waiting on somebody to complete you. Coming at it from a place of neediness. The only thing that we need is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not a spouse, not a marriage, not a child. It's nice to have, but you don't need it. You want it, but you don't need it. And so when you come into looking for marriage from a place that I have everything, and I can, with my relationship with Allah, provide for myself in all these areas, Now you're going to meet your spouse. Your spouse is going to come to you as opposed to you forcing yourself searching for him or her, and meet you where you are at. Make yourself happy and bring somebody in to become joyous, as opposed to sitting around waiting unhappily, waiting for somebody to come and make us happy. Let us be happy and hopefully meet somebody that will make us joyous and deepen our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Feel free to type in the chat what came up for you during this exercise, and hopefully the recording will be out, and you can do this again, or if you joined in the middle, do it again from the beginning in a quiet space, or maybe the kids are running around, etc. But here, what this is called is reducing importance. See, too often in any goal, we become hyper-focused and hyper-obsessed with that goal. I want to get a promotion. I want to start my business. I want my business to make a certain amount of revenue. I want to get married. And we start seeing the entire world through the absence of this thing in our lives. And that was my case with my business. And basically I became so obsessed with that business is that I ignored everything around me. If it didn't seem to me that it was going to help me reach my goals in my business, I didn't care about it. If Zara said, let's go out, I'd be like, why? Why? Does it help my business? No, I don't want to go out. Oh, let's go to this social. Why? Who are we meeting? This guy and this girl, like, no, I don't want to meet. How are they going to help me with my business? I saw everything in that lens. Same thing, like how are these people going to help me get married? What is this serving me to get married? What does this serve me to improve my marriage? There's no point in me going out if I'm going to come back home to a bad marriage, etc., etc. And so what we have to do is reduce that importance. Because when you put too much importance on this thing, if only I get this thing, I'll be complete, you're most likely never going to get it, because you are blocking your own way towards it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatest risk that you have in your life is other people. You never know how the job is going to come from somebody else. You never know how the money is going to come from somebody else. You never know how the love is going to come from somebody else. Right? But until you stop obsessing over it, you're not going to be able to see it. You're going to resist going to that event, which had you gone, you will have been introduced to somebody. Right? And the greatest example of that is if you have a business. Like I used to have an AI business, and it was business to business, right? And it was very hard to get clients at first. And the only way for me to get clients was to have more clients. That first client, every conversation I had with any potential client to be my first client, I put so much pressure on it. I don't have any clients. I really need this to work. I don't have any clients, right? And that just repelled them. And I wouldn't get that client, and I'll be desperate, and I'll lower my bar. Oh, that's okay. You could pay me half the money, just like we do in marriage, right? Or in a courtship. But once I got my first client, the first client that I got, I set the bar actually higher than my expectations. And then once I got that client, now when I met with another potential client, I wasn't as needy because I already had a client. I didn't care if they signed up or not, and they felt that energy. And I showed up in a different way. And then I got another client and another client and another client. So the key is to reduce the importance. And this exercise helps you do that. And somebody is saying it was hard to imagine in the beginning, but focusing on the feelings helps. Focus on the feelings really helps, especially for Muslims. Muslims have a fear of seeing a big house or a big car or horseback riding or whatever it is. I don't know why. And we meet so many people like, I've been trying to get married for 10 years. I'm like, okay, what was your vision for getting married? And they come up blank. What is the vision of your ideal marriage? They come up blank, right? And no wonder you're not married for 10 years. So focusing on the feelings is very helpful. If you can't visualize it, if you can't see it, if you have a hard time putting concrete things, focus on the feelings, as the sister is saying. And I'll stop here.
Okay. Before we join in with the Q&A, I just wanted to really quickly draw everyone's attention to the book Before I Do. So I'm going to be sharing the link in the Zoom. There we go. This is the link where you can go to purchase Before I Do, and you can get an autographed and printed version of this book available for the first 6 customers. if you are able to put it in. And I personally like having books with autographs on it if I'm able to get it. So I'm definitely getting in line for that, inshallah. It's there. So coming back to the Q&A session, inshallah, feel free to type in, and Sister Zara and Brother James can take turns answering. If you want to submit questions anonymously, you can either send it to the speakers directly, or feel free to send it to us, and I will submit it as an anonymous question. With that, I open up the floor back to the speakers.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Yeah, and if you want to come on and talk, you can feel free to just speak your question. Just get clarity on the question. So you're saying that you had had a vision for what you wanted. You'd met someone who was in line with it, and it was not good. Why was it? They were actually in line and it wasn't good, or something about it changed? Okay, so things were progressing, but then when it's time, like, okay, let's set dates and let's do this, then there was like, it slowed down or kind of got tense there. It's helpful to know the specifics, right? Because we're talking in a session in theory and sharing our own personal experience, but you guys are each going through your own individualized experience. So to know, and this is something why James and I are coaches, and why we believe so strongly in coaching, is because too much of the Muslim community has and relies on generic advice. Oh, okay, that happened to you. Like, I'm not going to keep asking you the details of your story. Well, next time, why don't you try this different app? Or why don't you make this type of tasbih? Or you need to go make umrah. Like, just giving you some generic advice where maybe those things will help you. But if I don't know the specifics about what's going on, or when I do know the specifics, I can coach you to understand, right, what went wrong, right? If we even think about sports coaching, right? Serena Williams' tennis coach is not a better tennis player than her, but he or she is observing her from the outside and can see, like, oh, Serena, like, your elbow went up too high. You need to lower it. And that's why, it went into that direction instead of there. And guide her and give her that feedback. So as a coach, I'm coming in with outside neutral eye. Okay, tell me the story. Oh, you see over here, this is where if you shift this, think about this differently, or have this, that's what's going to make the difference for you. And that's why coaching is so powerful. And not only that, we believe, like, the Prophet ﷺ was a coach. The Sahaba came and asked him specific questions about their specific circumstance. I am tempted by this. I had this problem. And he gave them specific answers. That's why there's hadith where people are asking the same question and the answers are different, because he's answering, well, for you, the answer is this. Oh, but for you, the answer is this. It's a different answer because he knew who he was talking to. So the 1 month before you're supposed to get married and things break off suddenly, are you, just because now I'm a little bit confused, are you the one who broke it off suddenly? Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Really acknowledge you for sharing your story, and appreciate you bringing that to this space. So this is so difficult. So first of all, so like completely normal to be feeling the pain and the tears and all of that. Like, wow, like to be thinking one thing is happening and then to have everything switch in such a short amount of time is very hard. first thing I'm going to say is that there's still a lot of emotion around this, means that number one, you haven't let yourself feel all the things that this brought up, right? So essentially, what's happened to you is you're in a holding pattern now. You had this, like, you know, I don't even know what to call it, like this falling out, this traumatic falling out, right? And it was a shock to you. And it sounds like from the way that you're kind of sharing the story, it made you doubt yourself. It made you question yourself. It made you question, like, do I know how to, you know, go about this or approach this, or did I not ask the right question, or I came across in the wrong way? How could I be so misunderstood? How could I be thinking that we are going in one direction and, like, you know, he's thinking a totally other direction? So this doubt and this lack of confidence in yourself in this area essentially has made you guarded. Like, I don't even want to think of a vision. I don't want to think of a vision. I don't want to think that I know what I want. I thought I knew what I wanted. What the heck happened? Like, what's going on? So all of that has kind of made you internally kind of hunker down and shelter. You're sheltering yourself from being hurt like this again, because this was very painful and very hurtful, right? So because of that, or not because of that, what this means is you haven't fully processed, you haven't fully gone through all of the feelings of that event, right? Because you want to, you'll know that you have when it doesn't hurt so much to share the story, where it doesn't pain so much. So that there is still an emotional charge means that there's still more work to do. And this doesn't mean that it has to take long. So this is the other thing that I want, that we didn't touch on in our session. But all of the stuff that we're talking about doesn't have to take long. Like, you know, in my story, I went from single to getting married. Like, for me, it was like within 7 months. I made these internal shifts. I realized I set a vision, and then I was single to married, and people are like, when did you meet this guy? What's happening? Like, oh, you met a guy. Oh, wait, now you're engaged. Oh, wait, now you're married. Like, I don't understand. So that's one thing. You processing this doesn't have to take long. It could be done. It could be done in an afternoon. It could be done over a week. It could be done over a month. So don't think that, oh, well, it's already been years and I still am feeling this way. No, it's really that you just haven't given yourself the mental outlet, the emotional and mental outlet to really let it out. Right. So that's something that we do with our coaching clients. So that's number one. The number two is, once you do have that, what happens when you actually have really fully more processed it? You're going to more realizations are going to come to you about how things went down the way they did. And those realizations are essentially your lessons. Those lessons are going to support you to be able to not feel like you need to shelter yourself, because now you've gotten the lesson. You've gotten the lesson and you've learned it in a really powerful way because it was so traumatic. So that you'll be able to use that and have confidence moving forward, right? Getting the lesson clearly allows you to feel confident. And it's in that space of confidence that you're going to be able to connect with the next person in a genuine and lighthearted and kind of graceful way. Whereas when you're trying to connect with someone, but you're still so guarded, it's a challenge. Yes, it is hard to give closure to yourself, but it is one of the most liberating things to make the commitment. You know what? I am going to get closure on this on my own without them coming into me. And there's some great visualization activities that, like, James could walk you through that would help you to do that on your own. Because you don't need him to have a conversation with you, come back or tell you anything or email you or anything. You can get to that place on your own, and that's what's going to support you to be able to move forward. Details more personal. Okay, the other question is, I'm currently going through a breakup with the person I'm talking to. He won't communicate with me during the breakup. I also want to give him space. My heart is telling me to stay, but my mind is telling me to leave. I don't know what to do. Can you possibly give me advice on where I can go from here? Okay, so this is something that we do get into in our different coaching programs with the heart and the mind, right? Your brain is telling you like, this is enough, you should get out of here. And your heart is telling you to stay. And within there, like, you know, if you were to, you know, again, you should book a call, have a coaching session with us, is for us to tease out what is it? Why is your brain telling you to stay? Why is your brain telling you to leave? Why is your heart telling you to leave? And first of all, really get that clarity that that is what each part is saying and why they're saying it. Because there's a lot of, the main factor that can muddy up your ability to discern what should I do is fear. Fear is the feel, well, you know, in this case of like this guy and we're broken up. If you have a fear, no one else is going to come, or this is working, you know, this is the best person who has ever come. Oh God, I've already invested X amount of months or years with this person. I don't want to start over. I'm afraid to start over. If you are having fears that are underlying either your mind or your heart, they are impacting the clarity of what you should do. So you have to tease out what are the fears, and then you'll be able to better discern what's actually being communicated, and then you'll be able to better discern how should I move forward. And the way that you want to move forward is that you do want to move forward from your heart, but you know, based on just this little bit that you're telling me, something about the way that you're describing it is making me suspect that you're not that there's more to what your heart is trying to communicate to you than you're right now currently picking up. And going through, you know, talking with a coach, talking it out, having someone support you through that is going to allow you to do that. Again, another emotional moment that you're in. So first of all, I mean, this is a huge piece for Muslims. Feel your feelings. Feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And what I'm really here is there's a lot of messaging within the Muslim community of like, it all happened for a reason. Inshallah khair, just trust in Allah. There's what, like, we just quickly, they call it, this is spiritual bypassing. Like, just know, you know, Allah has a plan for you and he only punishes, you tries the ones that he loves. And essentially it's to try and get you out of this, like, you know, to make you stop crying, right? It just comes from our parents, like, stop crying, I'll get you another one.
Yeah.
But cry, cry, allow yourself to feel this hurt and this sucks. And why did this happen? What's going on? And let yourself have those feelings, because within, when you allow yourself to kind of sink into and settle into those feelings, you'll realize that like you'll go through them. You won't, the fear is also that you'll settle there. I'll be sad and I'll be sad forever. You won't. You will, in the process of doing that, come again with the realizations and lessons. So that's number one. You could just journal. I love journaling. I think it's a really powerful practice. Like, you know, why, like, what did I learn from him? Or like, how did I contribute to this relationship? How did I contribute to us getting to this point? what could be trying to emerge, right? What is the lesson that could be being taught there? But again, we're doing it from like, not just what's the lesson, like move on, this happened for a reason, but from really seeing like where, I got laid off and I got broken up with in the same day. That's a powerful combination of events. And it feels like newness. It feels like, setting you up for something else. But you really have to look at, where have I been? Like how James was saying, like what I've been tolerating in my life. I was tolerating, maybe a bad boss or an annoying coworker, or, a job that's undervaluing you. I was tolerating this, and I was tolerating this guy who it sounds like was actually kind of a bum. I was tolerating this bum, blah, blah. And Allah's like, enough with the bum job, enough with the bum guy. Like, we are leveling up. Yeah, it hurts and it's painful, but like to go through, like, yeah, I'm just been playing small. I'm scared to go for the job I really want. I'm scared to believe in a man or a relationship that I really want. So I was trying to settle for those two things. And now those two things fell off. Okay, so what next, right? And again, we wouldn't do this quickly within 1 or 2 minutes, right? But to go through that process of, I'm going to feel this pain and understand, where is it trying to lead me? Because it's leading you somewhere if you let yourself follow the pain. Because the pain is more than just that this person broke up with you and that you lost this job. This pain is also like, I thought this would work out. I thought this was be easy. I thought this type of job I would definitely have. And I thought this type of guy, like, I'm a little bit, they're 5 years behind. Like, wouldn't they see I'm a great catch? Like, they should definitely stay, right? Like, go through. Is this resonating? Yeah.
But I think, just to reiterate, like, there is a reason why, see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always, our most powerful asset is our attention. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is already gently guiding us to put our attention where it matters. And we tend to ignore it. But they say, oh, Allah closes the door, there's a better door that's going to open. Like, that just causes you to ignore the feelings, right? And so here, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first taps us with a feather, and then with a hand, and then with a brick, and then throws the bus. This sounds like a bus that hit you. There's something that you are not paying attention to, that you have to pay attention to. What sounds like to me is what we said earlier. You were lowering your standards, and Allah does not want you to take, that is not what you want. If somebody's 5 years behind, like, that's ancient history. In 5 years, there's a lot that can happen. And the fact that this person was non-committal this whole time for 1.5 years, that's already, it's better, right? It's better that he bailed on you now than bailed on you when you have children.
Right.
Relocated, or when you gave up your job to be with him.
Right.
Right? And
100%,
so
yeah.
I'm not saying don't feel the feelings, but look at the lessons. Like, what can you do differently? If you got our book, that's the first thing, that one of the first questions is, when do you want to get married? How soon, if we deem compatibility, how soon can we get married? That's number one of the first questions. Because if this person is not ready to get married, and if you knew that everything was good and dandy with this person, you would marry them tomorrow, and they say, no, I need more time, then they're not a good fit. And you could move on. As people rejoin, again, if there's nothing that you take from this session, that lowering your standards does not make it easier. I know it seems like, oh, it's easier for me to get this if I lower my standards, but that is proven time and time again that it is not true. The example that I use, just look within you, right? What's easier to make dua for you, right? If I wanted to make dua, which one is more realistic for me, right? Can I make dua for a Honda or for a Porsche? Right? 90% of people on this call, they're going to say a Honda. Right? Oh, it's more realistic for me to make dua on a Honda. I can see myself. I could afford it. I could do this. I could do that. Right? Even though in California there's a lot of Porsches, right? But point being is that actually you settling for the Honda makes it more difficult for you to get the Honda. Like, you don't get the Honda and you don't get the Porsche. But if you go for the Porsche, you're more likely to get the Porsche if that's what you truly want. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to him, a Porsche or a Honda is zero. It's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. It's the same thing with a spouse. If oh, I'm going to settle for this person that's 5 years behind me, doesn't make it easier to get married. So getting clear on what we want and setting that minimum level higher to match what are we willing to tolerate makes a world of difference, even though it may not seem like it right now.
So then we have another question here that I'll read out. Do you have advice for someone who set their goals and intentions and found someone who meets all of those visions, political, emotional, family values, life goals, career goals, other than being Muslim? They are agnostic. Essentially, advice to a religious Muslim who is considering an interfaith marriage. Okay. So the first question is that what you want? In your vision of marriage, is that what you envisioned? Are you, as James just outlined, are you settling? Are you tolerating less? Because I don't think I can find someone with the political, emotional, family values, life goals, career goals that I want that's also Muslim. I don't think I can find them, so I'm just going to settle. So that's the number one question. And if you discover that, like, oh, yeah, I don't think I can find someone like that who is Muslim, so that's why I am, I'm considering this. Then your issue is, how do you build up your faith and your belief and in your vision, right? Because again, you'll never be happy unless you're at your vision. You will always, it will cause friction, tension, frustration, resentment, anger, depression. Like it just gets progressively worse. The more and more you stay away from your vision, and the more and more the longer and longer you're in a place that is not aligned with the truth of what you want. And so what the full answer to your question is that I actually have an entire program called the Keys to Love program. It's a 12-week guided coaching program that walks you through all of the different parts of courtship to build up your faith, to build up your capacity, and to go through everything within it. That program, like I said, is 12 weekly sessions. You have a monthly group call with me. I'm kind of in a setting like this, just like this, where people can ask their questions. It's just a Q&A, so we're just going through what's going on with you, and getting that support. It comes with a workbook. This is the workbook for it. So for every session, you have, the key points and room to take notes and all of that within that. And I can tell you more and see if you're a good fit for that. If you book a call, we could discuss it, or I could even just send you the link and you can enroll. But that's the main thing. So if you decide, if you're saying this like, oh no, like, yeah, I always envisioned myself not with a Muslim, well, then you have no issue. That's fine. But since clearly the person asking it, like, what is the advice to a religious Muslim who is seeking an interfaith marriage? Is that what you want? And it sounds like, from the way you've asked the question, that that's not what you want. And you're trying to get yourself, your vision is here, I want all of that with a Muslim. And you're trying to get yourself like, well, how can I make it work in an interfaith? And how can I, and no amount of it, people could give you tons of tips, how to make an interfaith marriage work, all the ways that you could cope with something that you don't actually want. And you could do all of them and you could cope with it fairly well, but you will never feel that alignment because you're not here where you need to be. Does that make sense? Okay, if I know that was an anonymous person, so if they said yes, great. Okay, second question. I newly have gotten engaged. I'm trying to have a secure attachment style, but I'm afraid that my abandonment attachment style will come up, and I don't know how to work on that so that my insecurities don't ruin something good. Again, you should book a call and we can talk more through this. But if you're engaged and you're feeling like you have been putting on a show, as James had already outlined, presenting yourself as more secure than you actually are, you are jeopardizing your entire relationship. You are jeopardizing your entire relationship. You are self-sabotaging right now. You're either going to ruin your engagement or you're going to mess up your marriage. So you should book a call immediately, because I don't know when your wedding is, but you want to sort this out. And I'll just share, when James and I were talking, that was one of the things. I'm like, I get jealous. You know, I'm boring. I'm an introvert. I like to stay in. So if you're looking for like an outgoing, you know, at the party type of girl, like that's not me. Very open about whatever to me felt like the things that I was insecure about. I openly shared with James very early on in our conversations, because like I don't want to feel insecure. My feeling, right? My vision for a relationship was like the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Khadija radiallahu anha, that those two against the world and supporting each other. And that vision meant that like she knew all of his issues and he knew all of hers, to the point that when he literally had the revelation come to him, which, you know, can you imagine your friend coming up to you? I was up hiking and like something came out and they were squeezing me, and your friend being like, I believe you. Like how much trust and compassion and love and whatever, all of the things to hear an impossible scenario and be like, if you're telling me this and I know you would never lie to me and I know everything about you, I believe you. So that for me was my vision. So I knew, let me tell James all of the things that I feel insecure, worried about, ashamed of, embarrassed by. You know, you don't have to go in and, you know, outline all of your sins. Like you don't have to share things that you've been forgiven for all of that, but like things that could be brought up within our marriage. I shared all of those because I wanted to feel secure. And so if you are not feeling secure, you are jeopardizing your relationship. Does that help? And James, do you have anything to add?
No, that was great. I mean, yeah, the anonymous questions are hard just because they're just that. You don't have the context, etc. So generic questions get generic advice. You know, imagine you go into a doctor and you're like, oh, I kind of feel pain somewhere, somehow, one day it happened. They can't prescribe anything, right? Because they don't know. That's why they have a set of questions. They have a chart. They try to figure out. They look at your history, all that stuff. It's the same thing here.
So Sarah, if you could also perhaps, you know, share the email of everyone who's on this call, you know, that way they could email us directly. We could send you, I can also put the link to our website in general, where you can find out about all of our coaching programs, all of the work that we do, but is essentially, as we've already outlined here, for you to know that you are loved, you are worthy, Allah is on your side, and you can get into a miraculous marriage. It requires you to know what your vision is, commit to it, and show up fully, telling everyone, you know, when you're in the courtship process, telling a person like, this is who I am. And I know, like I just shared in my story, like it was scary. That's what vulnerable is. It was vulnerable for me to tell James all of my insecurities and fears. But I was like, well, the only way I'm going to get to my vision is if I'm being vulnerable. So let me tell him, and, you know, and see what happens. And James was so gracious with holding that information that I shared with him and so caring with it that I was like, this is my person, right? And then he was able to share his stuff with me, and I held his insecurities in that same way. And that's what developed that bond. Like there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut to deep love and true connection and ride or die. There is no shortcut. Let me just pretend everything that didn't bother me. I'm not offended. I'm just, you know, okay, but I'm hiding tears. There is no shortcut. And really, our book is like an initial outline for that. The program that I mentioned, the Keys to Love, the 12-week program, is a more step-by-step guided program to help you really through all of it, because there's a lot of stumbling blocks just because of the way modern society is, and because of the way many of us were taught and raised within Islam that is very fear-based. And then we have an even larger program, or I don't want to say larger, an even more in-depth program that really aims to go to the core of your relationship with yourself and with Allah, And that program is called Limitless Love. But again, you could book a call and we could find out what is going on with you, where it is that you are, where it is that you want to go, and support you and let you know what would be the best thing for you to get there. And sometimes things are just like, okay, start with this visualization, start with this journaling prompts, right? Like get our book and do this. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be big and scary. You want to close us out, James?
It was great speaking to everyone. Hopefully this was helpful. My, takeaway, if you will, is just to know that you have agency in your life. Having a miraculous marriage, whether you're single or currently married or been married for tens of years, requires the same commitment. If you saw somebody at Santa Barbara at the beach who was completely chiseled and buff and in great shape, a shape that you desire, you'll never think, oh, this person is lucky. Allah willed it for them. They're lucky. Of course, Allah willed it. That goes without saying, right? But they're not lucky. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't like they just went to bed and waited for the right day. No, every single day they ate well, every single day they exercised, every single day they hydrated, every single day they stretched. And that's how they got to it. It was no coincidence. And the same thing, I'm not sure what is the block with Muslims and Islam in marriage that we make it seem like it's a coincidence. It is not. It is just, you have the power. Allah gave you the ability, gave you the amana to go and do this, to rely on Him and fulfill your role as a representative of Allah on earth, and you can do it for your marriage. I was just listening to an interview of Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, passed away. He had scored 81 points, which is the second most in a single game. And he was like, oh, to be honest, I knew I was going to score 81 points. Like imagine us Muslims say, oh, to be honest, I knew that I was going to get into a great marriage. That'd be like so taboo, like, oh my God, how dare you? What about the evil eye? What about this? No, he's like, I knew. It's like, why? Well, because I scored 60 points in 3 quarters just a couple of weeks ago. And I spent all summer making 1,000 shots a day. And it wasn't just me playing around 1,000 shots. I was doing game situation shots every single day, all summer. And I would miss 60% of them a lot of times. It took me forever to get 1,000 shots, but every day I made sure that I got to 1,000 makes, right? And so it wasn't a coincidence that he scored 81 and he didn't doubt it. So if you put in the work, don't feel that, well, if I imagine my ideal marriage, Allah is going to let me down. We didn't do our part and then we make it seem that Allah let us down. We didn't imagine our ideal marriage, or we settled, or we just went with somebody just to be with somebody as opposed to being our full self. And that's the key. If you take care of your end of the equation, Allah's promise is true. He will take care of His. So all we have to do is focus on our side of the street. Losing the 3 or 4 steps as Zara outlined, and of course, book a call, and we can talk more about that. So hopefully this was helpful. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullahu khairan, everybody, Brother James and Sister Zara, for making time for us and having this enlightening talk. Inshallah, I will go ahead and email all the links and also share the email. You guys should also be receiving the link for purchasing the book, inshallah. And thank you so much for, coordinating this with us. I know we've had almost a lot of difficulty trying to make this happen. You guys have been wonderful, and thank you for the flexibility. I will get the Zoom links up. I think we've had some audio issues on the Facebook and the YouTube streaming, but alhamdulillah, this was a great experience, and inshallah, I will share the link, the recorded video with everybody, including the speakers. Thank you so much. And have a safe trip back, Brother James, from DC.
Inshallah. Thank you. Inshallah. Looking forward to visiting you guys someday.
Inshallah. And Sister Zara, please visit us during Ramadan as well, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah, we will.